Good evening. I'd like to welcome to Albany City Council meeting October 9th, 2024 at 6 p.m. I'll now call the meeting to order, and please all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Allison, may we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Montague.
Here.
Counselor Smith.
Here.
Counselor McGee.
Present.
Counselor Novak.
Here.
Counselor Newt.
Present.
Counselor Kopsinski.
Here.
Mayor Johnson II.
Here. Thank you very much, Allison. Next on tonight's agenda, first up is special presentations. The first one will be Community Health Centers of Benton and Lynn Counties, Christine Mosbaugh and Lacey Molell. Thank you. Sorry about that.
And these are both on. Great. We're here today to share a little information with you about the healthcare movement that we are part of, talk about our organization, and then let you know why Albany is a place that we want to share that with right now in particular. So community health centers, you all have two different brochures there. One is a little bit of a primer about who we are, and then one comes from our national association that talks about the community health center movement across time, and particularly in the last year. So community health centers have been around for 53 years, really working to address both the social and medical needs of people, families, and communities. It is a healthcare system that has origins in the civil rights and anti-poverty movements of the 1960s, and the first clinics were started in 1965. We have an ongoing mission to blend federal dollars, state support, revenue generation from healthcare, and local context for our health centers, and have staff and people who are invested in our success in those areas.
So the community health centers are federally funded, and we don't turn patients away based off of their ability to pay for services. We utilize sliding fee scales and insurance assistance. Currently, the community health centers as a national movement is known as the largest primary care network in the United States, and we take care of about 1 in 10 people in the United States, and we know that the primary care need is really for us to take care of 1 in 3. So there's about 1,500 CHCs and lookalikes, which is a federal designation also that you can get, but you don't get any of the federal dollars. You just go through all the compliance work. We're fortunate to have that designation, and we just celebrated our 20th anniversary this year. We take care of patients by tailoring our services to take care of people with complex needs. We focus on houselessness, public housing, veterans, migrant populations, and those who are just experiencing poverty in urban, suburban, and in rural areas. So locally, the CHCs of Benton and Lynn counties, we're a public entity, federally qualified health center, which means that we either through academic institutions or through local governments, you are able to apply for community health center status and not have to be a 501c3. So Benton County is the one who initially made that application 20 years ago. We have 5 primary care clinics in Benton and Lynn counties. We have one in Corvallis on 27th Street. The Lincoln Health Center and Monroe Health Centers are both school-based health centers. One in South Corvallis and the other in Monroe. And then 2 clinics in Lynn County, one in East Lynn that's in Lebanon, and then one in Sweet Home. We also have 2 dental clinics that provide the same services under the same model in Corvallis, and we do a ton of dental outreach in places like the Veterans Home and other places, and we are in almost all the schools in Benton and Lynn counties providing all of the school sealant or the teeth sealant program and all of that stuff. We are a patient governed organization, so the federal government requires us to have at least 51% of our board is governed by patients. So that makes sure that our patients are always at the table and when we look at how we're providing services. We have partnerships with local health departments, social service organizations, and other CBOs. We have 13 primary care providers and about 150 staff across all of our sites. And our care team model approach is that each provider group has a provider. We have clinical pharmacists through a partnership for the last 15 years with OSU School of Pharmacy. We have a 340B pharmacy that really does amazing work in providing drugs for our patients at reduced or discounted prices. And then we have nurses, behavioral health consultants, medical assistants, health navigators, population health coordinators, and client services representatives. So it's a big team that wraps around every patient we have.
And we're here sharing this with you. We find that a lot of people don't know about the community health center movement. They don't know about our services. We are in both counties, and so certainly it's possible that you have heard about what we're doing, but we're particularly interested in engagement across Albany the last 6 months intensely for a project for a new access point. So 18% of the people who use our services in these 5 sites are currently people who have one of 3 zip codes that's kind of the greater Albany area. And so we know that people from Albany are getting services, which is great, but they're traveling to any of our locations for that, and there's nothing here locally. About 10 years ago, we had hoped to bring a clinic to Albany, but had to make some choices about where to go and partnerships and space that was available, and we ended up in Sweet Home rather than Albany at that time. This is not an opportunity that comes around often with a new access point, but it did come around this May 30th. And so October 2nd, we did put in an application to the federal government, the Health Resources and Services Administration, to open a clinic in, it was by zip code because it was the high needs area. So it's the 97322 zip code is what was available. So we worked with Family Tree Relief Nursery on a plan to, should we be awarded that money, to open a clinic space that would really be pretty comprehensive and exciting for everybody. And that went in. We are waiting to hear back from that. But in the process have reached out to a lot of different partners in Albany, and would be interested in continuing those conversations, or if you all have any interest in knowing about our services or connecting us to anybody else, we are certainly here and open to that. Wanted to take this time just to share a little bit about our organization and how we think we may be able to be an even greater asset in Albany than we are currently. We both live in Albany and so feel very passionate about having a presence in this space, and certainly when you look at the 2 counties, the gap is this large population. Lynn County Public Health has been a wonderful partner with us across years, and they've been telling us for a long time, like, you really need to be in Albany. The unmet need for Intercommunity Health Network, or IHN, the Medicaid members, as well as others, is great. So we're excited, happy to answer any questions, and really just wanted to give a chance to sort of have an interaction with you all.
Council, you have any questions?
Just a comment.
Go ahead, Counselor.
As a resident of 97322, I'm really excited to hear about that.
Councilor Kopczynski?
Yeah, I'm just a question. I'll freely admit I hadn't heard of you until I saw this this afternoon. Are you filling a gap? Are you duplicating any services, or is this just something totally new that has been needed? Or help me out here.
I mean, the services from community health centers have been around for 53 years, and they really are sort of a bedrock and a basis for care for people who need more complex services. We're integrated primary care, dental, and behavioral health, which is a model that you don't find everywhere. And I would say uniquely in our area, we're doing a lot of work with relationships with community-based organizations and social supports. That's the heart of the movement, is recognizing everything needs to be tied together. So I think it's definitely a gap filler. It is foundational for health and wellness for many, many people who seek our services. And I think our hope is that we can find more spaces and places and people who know about us, so that the people who need the type of care we provide can get it.
Councilor McGee?
Just a comment, I love the board makeup of the patients at the table. That's really important. And I do have a question. Once it's here, I am also a resident of 322. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. But also, do you plan to partner with the community college, LBCC? I know that there we have the nursing program there, the behavioral health, like it will be interesting to see if you had internships available, anything of that nature.
Yeah, no, that's a great, we do take externships for medical assistants, and we're really happy to always, we just employed 2 that we took 3 students or 4 students just for a couple of months. So we do partner, I know they have a new public health program, I think it's public health program, so have had some staff input on how to build that program, but we're always open to more partnerships. Of course, the healthcare workforce shortage is a big issue for behavioral health providers, primary care providers, nurses and medical assistants, dental assistants, and so we would definitely like to kind of continue those conversations. So thank you for bringing that up.
Counselors, anybody else? I did have one. I'm an insurance broker by profession. As far as seniors, would seniors be on Medicaid, could be using these services as well?
Yeah, seniors or Medicare recipients. I mean, we see we have the ability to see the most vulnerable people in the community just because we get this funding from the feds to be able to supplement that. But we see people of all payers. And, just because we have a particular kind of insurance doesn't mean that we couldn't use a little extra support when we go see the doctor or a different advocate to kind of help us walk through those complex interactions. And navigating healthcare is so complicated, as you know, right now. So I think we just aim to walk alongside people and help them.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and I will be reaching out to Ms. Mossbaugh and have further conversations.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Appreciate the time.
Next on tonight's agenda is Oregon Community Foundation. Jackie Roth will be speaking with us this evening, and I see she's brought counterpart.
Hello, good evening, everybody. I'm also joined by my colleague, Ruby Buchholz, so apologies that didn't get added to the agenda. Thank you, Mayor Johnson II, for inviting Oregon Community Foundation to spend the next 10 or so minutes sharing a bit about the work we do across the state of Oregon, really to increase philanthropy. And thank you, council members, for your time this evening. We really appreciate it. As I started to say, my name is Jackie Roth. I serve as Regional Director and what we call a Philanthropic Advisor for the Oregon Community Foundation, and specifically in our Southern Willamette Valley region, which includes Linn County right here. And as I said, today I'm joined by my colleague, Ruby. Oregon Community Foundation is a grant-making charity. As a community foundation, we partner with donors to really improve the lives of people right here in Oregon and right here in Albany. So by the end of this presentation, we hope you have a stronger understanding of community foundations generally, and really a clear sense of how OCF provides both services to donors and grants to nonprofits, especially nonprofits serving the community here locally. We're different from many, sorry, I hope this doesn't pop, of our philanthropic partners like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or the Ford Family Foundation, because unlike private foundations and really family foundations, which fall in that same category, whose money comes from a single donor or a family, OCF's assets are actually made up of thousands of individual charitable funds, and each of those funds are originating from a different donor that we work with across the state of Oregon. In part, you can really think of us as a sort of clearinghouse for philanthropy. So I want to just share a little bit about how this works in practice. Individuals, families, businesses, and even other nonprofits can give really almost any type of asset. So it could be cash, it could be stock, it could be a gift of property. And they can then use that gift to establish a charitable fund through OCF, as I'll call the Oregon Community Foundation, which can exist for a number of years, or it can really live on in perpetuity through something called endowment. It can also be established during a donor's lifetime or after their death. In setting up the fund or a fund, donors retain the right to make real-time recommendations about what that fund supports. Or they can also provide us with specific instructions regarding how they'd like OCF to make grants from the fund on their behalf, and really in that way support organizations and causes that they care about most. These instructions can really define interest areas, they can name specific organizations here in Albany, they can even impose geographical restrictions like Linn County. In addition, donors can choose to create things like scholarship funds for students. So I thought I'd share that former legislator May Yee did this very thing and established the May and Stephen Yee Endowed Fund, as well as the Stephen Yee Endowed Scholarship Fund with OCF. So one of those funds goes to support students at West Albany High School, and one of those funds goes to support students at South Albany High School. In addition to supporting donors during their lifetimes, this model also really enables OCF to support donors with bequest giving, so giving after their death through a bequest gift. And I thought I would share a notable example, someone I'm sure we all know. Doris and William Sharp, well-known community members and philanthropists, chose to do this very thing by establishing a fund where the money would go to the city of Albany, really in support of the cost of attendance, or to help cover the cost of attendance at what I used to know as Swanson Water Park, what is now, I understand, the Cool Pool. Really with the idea that every child, regardless of income level, has the opportunity to enter and make the most of that community treasure. Additionally, naming a fund at OCF and a Willard Trust in lieu of naming particular nonprofits enables donors to easily make future changes to lists of beneficiaries without having to make amendments to trusts or updates to will. So we really see this as something we do as a service in partnership with our nonprofits here locally. So I thought I'd just say, why give through a community foundation as opposed to directly to nonprofits? First of all, we fully encourage direct giving to our nonprofit partners and really just want this to be seen as a supplemental service that is available. But to shed a little light on that, I'll share that the reasons are we offer some additional services. And so we not only invest people's charitable dollars, which is kind of key to this whole model, so that it can grow over time, but we also work to help engage family members and really span across multiple generations to continue encouraging philanthropy and get folks connected to learning opportunities like the organization we just heard from, so that they can understand the details of a project and be inclined to give that much more to it. And because Oregon is our first name, we do provide and intend to provide a deep level of expertise. For over 50 years, OCF has been actively researching where the greatest needs are across Oregon or in specific communities, working with thoroughly vetted nonprofits and really building a network of community partners, resulting in OCF becoming the largest charitable organization by assets in the state of Oregon. Last year alone, OCF was proud to help distribute over $20 million in grants and scholarships in what we call the Southern Willamette Valley, which spans a 4-county region, including Linn County and Albany. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Ruby, who will share more about how these dollars are generously distributed.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jackie, and thank you, Council, for having us here tonight, listening to our presentation. As Jackie said, my name is Ruby Buchholz. I'm the Program Officer for the Southern Willamette Valley and South Coast region. So I sit on kind of the opposite side of the house that Jackie does, and I work a lot on the nonprofits with the nonprofits and also on the grant-making side. When we say the Southern Willamette Valley, we're talking about Linn, Benton, Lane, and Douglas County. And so again, I work with the nonprofits, community-based organizations, government and tribal entities in these regions to help explore potential funding opportunities. I also help and kind of aid them in submitting grant requests through OCF because it can be complicated. And we have nonprofits of all sizes that are volunteer run all the way to ones with budgets of over $1 million. I see myself as a resource and advocate for nonprofits in the region. I'm here to answer questions and can introduce them to other OCF staff that lead other grant programs, or are like Jackie or our other colleagues in the Eugene office who work with donor advised funds as well. I also have a tendency to give them some more information on other funders and availability in their region, depending on what their project is as well. So I really see myself as that resource and for those nonprofits. I also work with the staff at OCF to ensure the messaging I receive from nonprofits is being shared across the organization. This information is often shared with donors and other community leaders and can lead to collaborative initiatives and efforts. There are many grant programs at OCF, and I lead OCF's largest statewide competitive grant-making program in the Southern Willamette Valley and South Coast regions. And when I say largest, I mean in terms of applications received. This last cycle, we had a little bit over 700 applications come in statewide. It's called the Community Grants Program. And I should just, the Community Grants is often referred to as our welcome mat or open door to OCF. It has some of the least restrictive funding parameters in comparison to some others that are specific to a topic area or a geographical area. The program has 2 grant cycles every year, spring and fall. Like I mentioned, we're completing and finishing up the fall cycle that had a little bit over 700 applications. And in mid-November, we'll be announcing the awards to those nonprofits that applied. Later in November or early December, we'll also be updating our website for the spring 2025 cycle. The fall cycle funds requests around capacity building, program project expansion, and small capital requests, while our spring cycle supports general operating support. And these were things that we heard from the nonprofits that were really important for funding opportunities and ones that often were very hard to find. So for example, our spring 2024 cycle supported 3 Albany locations. Kids for the Culture, which is now called Kin Cultivate, which is dedicated to nurturing the growth and positive racial identity development for youth of African descent. One to Another, which helps support children, families, and individuals in the area who struggle with behavior and mental health struggles. And Young Roots Oregon, which creatively empowers young families to build healthy foundations. There are many funding avenues at OCF, and if you're associated with a nonprofit or even just want to learn more, both Jackie and I encourage you to reach out to us via our website, and that we'd be happy to be answering questions in any way possible.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I was really happy to meet you both. So council, do we have any questions at all? Carolyn? Council Novak? Council. You pass your contact information on to the council, city attorney, to the deputy clerk. Thank you. City clerk, excuse me.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it, and I'll be reaching out to you again, so thank you. Next on tonight's agenda is business from the council, public. First person up tonight is John Pitch. Did I say that properly? Pitch, thank you. Confirm that you're an Albany resident and state your topic, please.
North Albany, been there for 40, 50 years, so.
To have you, sir.
Okay, it's, like I said, the topic there is the same as I've been here before for, except for the other day, Sunday night, my neighbors were on vacation. I went to see if their trash needed to be put out to the street. Well, this clown, was on their side of the street, had come back to my side of the street. I should have had plenty of time, but this clown passed me at about 45 miles an hour, and he was only about 12, 14 inches from the fog line, which I was standing behind. And then he gets past there, and he opens the roof and flips the twig. So he was just pissed off. And you're letting these people get away with this constantly, and it makes them more aggressive all the time. Now, I've been here twice before talking about this, and I don't want to be here again. So either you do something about it or I will. Now, I don't know if you noticed, I've got an empty holster on my hip. I don't better than to carry a gun in here, but I now carry one around the house. Now, when I have to carry a weapon around my own house, that's pretty bad. You understand that? Does anybody here understand that? Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I hope so, because that's pretty bad. And he's not the only one. There's several trucks, big trucks. I'm talking several ton box trucks and whatnot go through there really fast. but at least they go in the middle of the street. This guy was definitely pissed off because I crossed the street before he got there. And he was within 20 inches of that fog line. And I don't know if you've been close to anybody that looked pissed off and going that fast, but it's not nice. And that scares me for my life, so I'm ready to take a life if I need to. You understand that?
Of course, sir.
Well, why don't you help me? Why don't you get a cop out there, even once a week or once a month, so they can see a car? Some respect for the law. They have exactly zero. You put 280 houses at the end of my street, and I'm the major way out. So you caused a real problem for me, and I've been living there since '73.
All right, sir, our chief of police is here, and she will be contacting you. If you can leave your information with the city clerk, and someone will get a hold of you.
I'll do what?
If you can leave your contact information with the city clerk, someone will get a hold of you.
Okay, because they better.
People that need to hear it are in this room right now. I promise you.
Because I'm willing to spend a lot of money to get a good lawyer if you can't protect us, because that's your job, is to protect the citizens of your city.
Agreed.
I agree too.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Next on tonight's agenda is Director Grotto of Albany Downtown Association.
Good evening. Lisa Grotto, Executive Director of the Albany Downtown Association, with a quick downtown update. I'm going to start with Halloween because that's coming up soon, and there's lots of fun stuff going on downtown. Starting on the 18th, we've got our annual poster hunt where families can go around from then until Halloween, look at different windows, find something fun, write it down on the form, and then for a chance to win a movie night at the Pix Theater. The downtown trick or treat is scheduled for October 26th. That's the Saturday before Halloween from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. There is a trunk or treat at United Presbyterian Church, which is also downtown, and that is October 26th also from 11 to 1. Of course, admission is free. Here at City Hall, we have City Hall-oween. That is Tuesday, October 29th from 3 to 5 p.m. It's put on by Albany Parks and Recreation. Dress up in your most creative costumes and come collect fun and spooky treats, it says. So you're supposed to make a reservation through Albany Parks and Recreation, but the event is free. And all the Monteith House events, the ghost tours, the walking tours, trolley, et cetera, are all sold out already. That's why we publicized those back in September. Other events, appreciate that the Walk for the Cause was the other day, and always a wonderful happening. We've have a Dogtoberfest happening at Deluxe Brewing on October 12th. Downtown cleanup, we would love to have you join us on Sunday, the 13th, which is the day after the Giving a Hoot folks will be downtown. So we'll be working on different sections. That cleanup starts at 9 a.m. at our office for assignments. Rumor has it we'll have donuts from Jonuts afterwards. And then also on Sunday, October 27th, we've got the Black History Walking Tour of Albany. This says to join Oregon Black Pioneers and cultivate, Thank you, Mayor. For a guided tour of Albany's Black historic sites. And there's more details in our newsletter on that. It is the first one of this kind in Albany. Tickets are $17, available online, and it will go in front of a lot of the pioneer houses. It's a 2-hour, 2-mile tour. The bulk of our newsletter was a big shout out to all of our volunteers and community partners, as well as the awards for our downtown buildings, businesses, and individuals. You can read about that. I do appreciate that the mayor and council attended, and hope that you had a good evening with us. So you can read all about that in our newsletter.
Thank you, Director. Next on tonight's agenda, first reading of ordinances. Renewing the franchise agreements. Director Yeager, page 3 to 33 of your packet. Will the city attorney please read the ordinance in title only?
Excuse me, do we have opportunity for discussion?
The first reading is automatic. Then we discuss it after.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure.
An ordinance amending Chapter 3.70 of the Albany Municipal Code, AMC, and renewing a non-exclusive telecommunications systems franchise to Lightspeed Networks Incorporated for the construction and operation of a telecommunications system and fixing terms, conditions, and compensation of such franchise, and repealing ordinance number 5652 and ordinance number 5839.
Will the council like to make a motion to read the ordinance for the second time in title only?
This is where the discussion comes in, doesn't it?
I'm following the procedure, just hold off.
I'll make a motion to read the ordinances a second time.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no.
No.
Thank you, that's it. Calm down, I'm following the procedure. It's not, we have to bring it back now.
We're supposed to have discussion before you do your vote, I
No,
believe.
I am following-
Mr. Kidd, is that correct?
I'm following the procedure that was provided by him to me.
Yeah, we would discuss before we vote. So that vote, Counselor, wasn't the vote on the ordinance passing. That was the vote to if we were going to read it in a second time or not.
And so
So,
when you said no, it
What-
killed it till next
right.
meeting.
so now would be a time for discussion. So,
There we
Now
go.
is the time for discussion.
Yes.
yes. And I
Thank you.
think Director Yeager may have some
Go ahead, Director Yeager.
things you wanted to say.
Thank you. Tonight, I'm just bringing forward two ordinances for existing franchises that we have here in the city. Astound Broadband and Lightspeed Networks have been with us for at least 10 years, and we've had good working relationships with them. Their old franchise agreements expired, and so we are just wanting to set it up for another 5 years for both of them.
Any discussion, council?
Yes, please. I'd like to read to you from page 7 of this document, the 7th paragraph. Move this over here a little more. Okay. As permitted by applicable law, administrative rule, or regulation, the city may require franchisee to remove and replace any overhead facilities with underground facilities at the same or different locations, subject to franchisee's engineering and safety standards. The expense of such a conversion shall be paid by franchisee, and franchisee may recover its costs from its customers in accordance with state laws and administrative rules or regulations. Nothing in this subsection prevents the city and franchisee from agreeing to a different form of cost recovery consistent with applicable statutes and administrative rules or regulations on a case-by-case basis. My question with regard to this particular paragraph is, we recently experienced a situation with a franchisee and undergrounding, and they chose a different means of cost recovery. I am wondering if this agreement extends in the exact same way as the undergrounding situation on the waterfront project. Is this something that's going to potentially come out of the pockets of the people who are living in the city of Albany?
It potentially could. There are rules by the Public Utility Commission that covers this. We can't tell them that they can't recover it.
Right, but they're going to be able to recover it in the same way that Pacific Power is currently recovering its cost by putting another line item on our utility bills for the next 2 years for everyone who uses Pacific Power, correct? This is that same language, if I'm understanding it correctly.
Potentially, they could. However, this is only if we are requesting them to move those
Right,
lines.
which according to this, you absolutely could. And then they would then turn around and put it on us.
They could. I don't know that either of them would, but we don't really have a lot of discretion in that.
Okay, well, that answers that question. Thank you. I do have a few other things I'd like to run past you. Can someone tell me, please, who is the franchise administrator of the city? I don't know if that's you or Peter or Chris Bailey.
That would be, I'm the person, the department that the franchise payments come into.
So you are the franchise administrator.
Yes.
Thank you. That answers that question. I know you know this one is coming. I'm going to read from page 11 of this agreement. Section 3.70.160 references hazardous substances. I am wanting to know what sorts of hazardous substances could be related to the use of the franchisee's telecommunications systems. It talks about the release of hazardous substances which may occur or has occurred from or related to the franchisee's telecommunications system. Can you give me some information on what sort of hazardous substances could be coming from telecommunications equipment?
I actually talked to engineering about this, and we don't actually think that there are any materials that are hazardous that are being put into the ground. This is pretty standard language for construction contracts, and it will protect us in case there's something like a truck has a gas leak, or, you know, they're working with hydraulic, a hydraulic tube or whatever it's called, that breaks. So if there were to be some sort of a hazardous material that gets spilled on the ground, potentially, they would be responsible for cleaning those up.
They would be responsible, but they would also be indemnified against any damages, because if I'm understanding this correctly, something spills, something bad happens, you don't hold it against them, they don't hold it against you, but for any people who live in the town who happen to be in that area, what recourse do they have?
So, Sean, I don't know the legality of that. Can you weigh in on that?
Sure. So if a franchisee were to do something that was going to cost the city money, if they were to, I'm trying to think of some, they could do, say, if Pacific or Northwest Natural did something that caused the gas leak and it caused the city money, Northwest Natural, under these agreements, would indemnify the city and hold the city harmless. Indemnifying, I mean, they would go to, they would defend the case if it went to court, and then they would hold us harmless. So any judgment that the city was responsible for, they would have to hold harmless and pay that judgment. It would also work vice versa if the city were to indemnify the franchisee, if the city were to negligently do something to cause them damages. So it's standard language in our franchise agreements. It's kind of almost like what we would call a cross indemnification language.
Yeah.
But the citizens themselves, this does not preclude a resident of Albany to sue the city or the franchisee if they are harmed. They're not a party to this agreement, so they're not bound by any of the terms of this agreement.
So if there is some sort of hazardous substance at any time that comes from this telecommunications system, and it's someone who lives in that area is negatively impacted, they will be able to go after whom? If the city's indemnified
Both.
and the...
They could go after the city, and they could go after whoever put that harmful substance in the ground that harmed them.
Okay, I'm glad you're clarifying that for me, because when I read this language, I really don't like it. 3.70.260, each party shall indemnify, defend, and hold harmless the other, and the other's officials, agents, and employees against any and all claims, demands, causes of action, suits, proceedings, damages, costs, whatever occurring through the exercise of the rights and privileges granted herein. But that's sounded to me great for the city and great for the franchisee, not so great for some individual who happens to be...
No, it's just saying that the city and the franchisee are going to protect I don't want to say protect each other, but they're
That's what it sounded
protecting
like.
but they're like, we're going to, let's say if the city did something that was wrong and caused harm to the franchisee, that we are agreeing in that contract that we will indemnify and hold them harmless for whatever we did wrong. And if they do something wrong, they're indemnifying the city for what they did wrong. But it has nothing to do with the citizens of Albany. The citizens of Albany could file a suit if they were harmed against both the city and the
All
franchisee.
right, I really,
So,
truly
yeah.
appreciate you helping me with that.
worries.
Yeah, it's the last paragraph on page 14. I read it, and I just don't like the way that reads. Franchisee agrees to forever indemnify the city against any claims, suits, actions, costs, and expenses of any kind, whether direct or indirect, incurred by the city arising out of the release or threat of release of any hazardous substance as defined in this very hard-defined ORS, caused by the franchisee's ownership, operation, or maintenance of a telecommunications system in the right-of-way. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Oh, public records on page 17, it's section 3.70.310. Let me get to the right page. Lost it. Here we go. Yeah, public records. This is a little concerning to me, so maybe you can relieve my concerns. Franchisee can make information confidential, and the city retains sole discretion to determine whether to release the requested confidential information. I'd really like to know now about the $5 million pollution clause per incident and the hazardous substances, but I'm being told by Mrs. Yeager, and forgive me, I just have a problem these days with the word director. I don't know if people in this country are just have short memories, but where my people come from, under communism and socialism, director is a favored term for those ruling overlords, and so I've used it for almost 4 years, but I just can't stomach it anymore, and you'll have to forgive me. I can't use that term anymore. So again, I've been assured by our assistant city manager and others that we don't have to worry about hazardous materials. This is just some cover your behind language, and those towers won't do anything. But my question is, why is that language even necessary if there's not a threat of such a thing? Why do you put language in there if it doesn't?
This is just pretty standard boilerplate language for construction contracts. And this, for these two franchises, I don't think they're planning on doing any new construction. But if they were to do that, we would just want to make sure that we have protections in place for the city.
Yeah, well, could we put a protection in place for the people that if the city needs them to underground or they need to underground, that cost recovery isn't going to land up on a line item on our utility bills? Is there any way we can put that kind of protection in for the people?
We can't. We don't govern that. That is governed by the PUC.
Yeah, I knew you would say that. I just had to ask.
I do want to make a clarification too, on the franchise administrator, because payments come to us. Peter, the city manager, is actually the franchise administrator or his designee. And so because we get the payments in, we are the ones who reach out to them. I'm acting administrator, but ultimately it is the city manager who is the franchise administrator. I just wanted to make
So
that
the city
clear.
manager, and thank you, because I did think that made sense. I just wasn't sure. I guess I'll leave it at one more thing, and this is referencing the later one. It's on page 30, and I didn't write what section, but the agreement, and this, I really struggle with this, I have to be honest with you. This agreement gives the franchisee 180 days to pay the franchise fee, but the people of Albany are to be fined $1,000 a day if they are somehow late or negligent on their soon-to-be-implemented street maintenance fee, and I'd really like to know where the integrity is in that. For those with whom you do business, it's, not less than 30 days to cure the delinquency. But for people who live in the town, we have language in our ordinances that says, hey, you're just not the right person. So for you, it's $1,000 a day. If your bill got lost in the mail, hey, that's too bad. It's $1,000 a day on you.
So you've So Counselor, you've left the topic, you switched from.
I did
this-
not, sir.
this- yeah,
That's in the language here.
yeah,
I'm
no,
addressing it.
You said straight, we're talking about these agreements. That's it.
Yes, this is
What
in
you-
reference to the agreement.
But you just said that we're implementing a fee. We're not doing that. We authorize the staff to develop a structure. That's
But the
all we
language
did.
is there, sir.
But the
I'm,
thing-
I'm addressing the language that's there and that what applies to the people of this
She-
town versus the language that's here applying to the franchisee.
Director Yeager is trying to answer your questions, and you keep going on and on, not you're allowed to.
That's not
answer.
true.
City manager had something to say.
I was going to say that this is a little bit of an inaccurate comparison because the $1,000 a day is a fine that appears in there. It's not the amount of time. The utility billing staff routinely work with citizens to extend the time that's available for them to pay. It's not like.
Well, why is that language there? I'm really
Well, there has
offended
to
by it.
be- Well, you can imagine that if you didn't have any negative consequence to not paying a bill that you owe,
$1,000 a day, though? You give these people 6 months.
people.
6 months, 180 days
Well,
is 6
What you
months.
should ask is how many times has that $1,000 fine been assessed? And it's very, very rare. It's people do pay their bills, and the utility billing staff do give plenty of flex and work with people to get them the ability to pay, even if it has to be a late payment.
Well, sir, I'll tell you, to me, that just smells to high heaven of a lack of integrity. That the city would do such a thing to the people who live in the town, but they don't implement, for those with which the city wants to do business, it's here's 180 days for you with a minimum of 30 days to cure any delinquency. Why is that language not in the ordinances that impact the people who live in this town?
It's a completely different situation. Those are not comparable situations.
Well, they should be. How you treat the people of this town, it should be the other way around. You should be much more gracious to the people who live in this town than perhaps the people with whom you do business. But I've never seen it, 6 months to pay a bill. That's
Thank you,
versus $1,000 a day. To me, it's just
Thank you, Counselor.
lacking in integrity.
Any other counselor have any comments? So the first reading, second reading was defeated. We'll bring this back for further discussion.
We do have two ordinances,
Oh, so do the second ordinance?
also the second ordinance,
Okay.
please.
So the second ordinance is Astound Broadband LLC. Would you like to talk about it first before, we'll do the first reading, please?
Well, let's talk about it
Let's
first.
talk about it.
Again, it's the same basic language as LS Networks. We have had a relationship with them for 10 years. We have had a very good relationship. There have been no issues with their work, and we would like to renew their agreement.
So next on tonight's agenda is Astound Broadband. Oh, so go ahead and talk about it. Oh, yeah, please.
Yeah, we'll still read the first.
Okay, first reading of the
tonight,
ordinance.
yeah. An ordinance amending Chapter 3.80 of the Albany Municipal Code, AMC, and renewing a non-exclusive telecommunications systems franchise to Astound Broadband LLC for the construction and operation of a telecommunications system and fixing terms, conditions, and compensation of such franchise, and repealing ordinance number 5840.
Move to read the ordinance in title only a second time.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
Thank you. We'll be bringing it back next city council meeting. Thank you, Director. Next on tonight's agenda, award of contract, item 6, special procurement of police vehicle and car cameras. Police Chief Marsha Herndon, page 34 to 37 in your packet. Good evening, Chief.
I won't go into detail in the interest of time, but as you recall, we both have an existing body cam program that is tied to our Motorola in-car video system. It used to be called WatchGuard. They got bought out by Motorola. We have upgraded our body cameras, and now it's time to get rid of some of our legacy in-car video. This is a very useful tool for both criminal justice purposes and transparency. It would be prohibitively expensive to go to a different vendor, so we're asking for sole source procurement, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council, any questions? Let me start with, anyone else have anything? Councilor Novak?
One question only. Can you tell me, please, where the funding for the APD in-call video systems is coming from? Number 217-20701-610430 doesn't really tell me.
Yeah, and I apologize for that. It's existing funding in our equipment replacement budget. So the money's already there.
Thank you.
Knowing that we had to spend it.
Council, do I have a motion?
I move to approve the special procurement.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Thank you, Chief. Motion passes. Have a good evening. Next is on the night's agenda is adoption of a consent calendar. Council,
Move to adopt the consent calendar as written.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Thank you. Next is business from the council. Councilor Novak, you're up.
I can't talk yet. Please let me go not first.
Councilor McGee.
I have nothing.
Councilor Montague.
Just a reminder that it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month for those, as somebody who has whose life has been touched by the risk of breast cancer, and also, my mother had breast cancer. Please, for all the people with breasts out there, please make sure you're getting checked on a regular basis. Don't just wait till October. Thank you.
Councilor Novak, you ready?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm just curious, the letter that we received from Mrs. Luhash that I did not think was going to be able to be shared because she sent it in an incorrect format, and Peter shared it with everyone somehow.
I got a hard copy in the postal mail. So I scanned that into
Okay.
a PDF format
And so
shared it.
I'm curious as to, since everyone has that letter, does that mean that it is a matter of the public record?
Yes.
Okay, good, because I was going to read it into the record until I got here and saw that you had rectified that. I do have some things that I would like to read into the record, and maybe you have read them, maybe you have not, but it's some public comment in regard to the street maintenance fee. I'm not going to read every word that every person wrote, but I'm going to read some of them. One person says, "This new fee represents more than a 10% increase in our water bill that we already work really, really hard to keep as low as possible. On top of the previous $9 fee, unacceptable. I would like to see an accounting for the $6K we already pay in property taxes. None of this money is being used to maintain our community. I'm really disappointed in the new lexicon and adoption of the new nomenclature. Instead of calling it a tax, we'll call it a fee and can run with it as we see fit instead of having to bring it to the community for a vote. Our hands are tied since we need water to live. Shame on you for using a basic human necessity to generate piggy bank funds." Someone else says, "Break taxpayer-funded unions. The pension payouts are breaking every city in the country. I'm a Teamster, and if my union wanted a contract that was going to break my company, I'd vote it down. But cities keep their union voters happy by imposing BS fees like this to make up for the fact that unions write their own tickets." Somebody else says, "I'm going to soothe my anger at this new street fee by boycotting Albany businesses where I can. As an example, I'm not shopping or going to restaurants downtown where Albany spent the millions skimmed off the top of property taxes on gentrifying downtown for the benefit of the elites." Said, "I'm also not voting for Mayor Alex," and this is another one. Basically, the city votes to improve or protect where they live, work, and provide them with a lifestyle most of us cannot afford. Our family has also declined to contribute to the gluttony of the city officials. We use our little extra money and time to help others or put toward our kiddos' education. The American dream of working hard will give you respect and success seems to be replaced with whoever can take other people's dreams away is the most successful. The city has put up every roadblock possible for working people to be successful living here. I think I'll stop there for now.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Kupczynski?
Some of you may have noticed there was a large scaffolding machine, a genie is what it's called, that goes up about 40 to 50 feet, walking around up on the roof of the carousel. And what they're doing is putting up a whole series of lights that will be able to be turned on and off at will through the computer system we have to generate different colored lights at different times of the evening, however we want to do it. So when the go-live date is, I'm not honestly sure, but you may see it being practiced with for a while until that happens.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Newton-Nazar?
I don't have anything to report to today.
Thank you. Counselor Smith?
I would like to remind the public and the people in this room that there is no street maintenance fee. There is a vote to authorize the study of a street maintenance utility. No one is getting a fee on their utility bill to pay for street maintenance at this time. I would also like to remind the people who are viewing and who are in this room that when someone says the city does this and the city does that, the city is all of us who live here, every one of us, whether we are paid on the city payroll or we pay taxes to the city or both or neither. I'm also speaking up on behalf of the staff and my fellow counselors in defense of our personal integrity. I will stop there.
Thank you, Counselor. It was an interesting week for me. I was blessed to marry a couple in Salem, and it was on our anniversary, our 39th anniversary, and they presented us with a cake that had 39th anniversary and our picture next to it. It was fantastic. And then this week we have the LOC conference, 17th through 19th of this month. Some of us will be over attending that conference. And I'd like to extend my blessings to my friends and family and clients in Florida right now. I have a brother-in-law and several clients in the area of Milton's Attitude. That's what I'm calling it now. I hope they get to safety and stay safe. And I'm glad that you made it back safe and didn't have to be caught up in that. But say blessing for the people that are in the path of that hurricane. It's a mighty big one, and I haven't seen anything since Katrina that big. And with that, I'll turn it over to the city manager for his report.
Mr. Mayor, I have nothing further for you.
Thank you. So next on tonight's agenda, the next meeting dates are October 21st, 2024 at 4 p.m. for a work session, and also Wednesday, November 23rd, 2024 at 6 p.m. for a meeting, city council meeting. And looking forward to seeing you all over there. And I will now adjourn the meeting.